and welcome to December, our final in a series of 12 where we are considering specific practices for your spiritual growth. And today's topic, or the topic for the month of December, is that of learning to access and exist more fully in a state of silence, in a state of presence. And this particular process is fairly simple. However, it might be more difficult for a lot of people. But what I'd like to encourage you to do is pick one day a month where you will be silent, utterly and completely silent, not talking. Sure, if someone asks you a question, you can nod your head yes or no. Or if you want to have a piece of paper where you can write down a brief answer, that's fine. But I'd like to encourage you to take up one day of silence. I apologize if I said a month. I meant one day of silence a week for the month of December. This is something I used to do quite often many years ago. Mine was for an astrological reason, but I found that it was actually pretty profound, the simple practice of silence, even if it's just one day a week. Because so often our mind is thinking, but really what it's thinking about is a way to respond to those people around us. It's trying to anticipate what they're going to say or what they're going to do. It's trying to think about what have they said and how can I respond to them. And you use a lot of your mental power in that alone. And what I found is when I took one day of silence a month, that during that day, my mind became very quickly silent and tranquil without even meditating, without even doing a whole lot, because I realized that most of my mental stuff was simply going to be in response to what I was anticipating communicating with someone else or responding to someone else. But if I know I'm not talking, and eventually the people around you will realize, hey, Ryan, or you, whatever your name may be, isn't going to talk in this particular day, they're going to be less inclined to ask you questions. They're going to be less inclined to speak with you. And so you have to then take on the role of simply being a silent presence. And that's very transformational, not only for you, but also for the people around you, because then they have to get comfortable with someone being near them who's just being silent. And that's a beautiful thing. That's really, in my mind, where you figure out who your friends are. Because the people that I find to be the best friends are the ones that I can sit there and just not have to say a word. Not because there's any kind of telepathic communication going on, just because they don't require anything from me and I don't require anything from them. It's just being together. Whether it's drinking tea or having a meal or going for a walk, there's no need to have any exchange. There's no need for a give and take. It's simply the capacity to be with each other. I make a joke with people, and it's actually kind of a true thing. I've been married for quite a while, and when you're married to someone for a while, eventually you've talked about a lot of stuff. And so that's why maybe you'll see the married couple next to you or whatever it might be, and they're eating, but they're not saying anything to each other. And what's the response that most people have? Well, gee, I hope I never turn out like them. Think about how boring that is. They don't talk anymore. And so what I do is I typically wait until we're going out to eat or we're going somewhere, and I don't discuss anything until we get there. That way we actually have something to talk about. But that aside, one of the things that you find when you move into a relationship like that, whether it's with a spouse or whether it's with a friend, is that then your communication becomes more meaningful. Because you're not just talking to get to know each other, you already know each other. There's no need to be involved in chit-chat. Then you can simply sit and be in each other's presence, and if there is something important to be shared, some kind of inner inspiration to be shared, then you can really go into a profound conversation where you can really share something timeless. But it's not, your relationships are no longer inspired by needing to, again, stay stimulated. You're able to be silent, to be quiet with each other, and when it's necessary to talk or to share, it comes naturally. So this is part of what we're learning to do with this month of 1 day a week silence. It may be that you can't do that. I don't believe that, because you should be able to do that. Now, not to get into judgments and these sorts of things, but it can't be that hard. Now again, maybe you have a child, a young child, and you have to communicate with that child. It's understandable. If you really, truly cannot set boundaries that for 1 day a week you're going to be silent, then decide that you're not going to be completely silent, but you are only going to respond when asked a question or when you absolutely need to. I mean, you're not just going to make chit-chat about the weather, or can you believe so-and-so did this, or I read this. It's you wait until someone actually speaks to you, and then you respond. And you respond in as short a way as possible, meaning you don't need to explain yourself, you don't need to defend yourself. If a simple yes and no will suffice, leave it at that. But I want to encourage you to actually truly commit to 1 full day a week. And that can be from sunrise to sunset, if that's easy for you. But if you can go from the time you wake up until the time you go to sleep, that's even better. But do this and see how transformational it can be, not only in your relationships, in your capacity to realize you actually can be internally still, but also in relationship to your meditations on that day. Because I think what you'll find is that most of the stuff that's going on in your meditation that's distracting you has to do with your need to interact with other people, communicate with other people. And take this a step further. Don't just do it with speech. Do it with email and texting and phone calls as well. So you're silent, because you can say I'm going to be silent. When I used to be silent, it was before I got a smartphone, so I didn't have to worry about texting people. But when I've tried to do the silence now, the thing that got in the way was, now people are texting me. Sure, I can do that. No problem. I'll get right back to them. So I had to actually say, no, I'm not even going to pick up my cell phone during that time. I'm not even going to look at it. So let this be your practice for the month of December, and let it take you a little more fully into a state of silence. And that will set a nice tone for the beginning of the new year. And then if you're inclined, if you want to continue with this process, go back to the original videos, go back to January on this channel, and start again. Watch the January video, hit it one more time. It's going to take you from a different level at that time, even though you're doing the same thing again. And look at February, March, and follow the process again. Keep following this process throughout the years, this simple process, these monthly themes throughout the years. And just see how profound they can unlock that inner silence within you. So thank you for tuning in this year. It's been a pleasure to work with you. I will be taking a break from recording for a while, focusing more on my astrological work, my astrological research on the Ryan's Vedic Astrology YouTube channel. And I will probably also be putting a lot more attention towards the Kriya Yoga book, the second Kriya Yoga book. So the first one, which you may already have, Kriya Yoga, Continuing the Lineage of Enlightenment. But the second one is going to focus more on technique and the depth of Kriya Yoga practice beyond technique. So I'm really looking forward to getting this out there so that you all can have it to review and apply to your spiritual practices. So that will be my focus. And I wish you all the best on your own projects, on your spiritual practices, and on your personal and spiritual growth. Be well. Peace.